Hello viewers, I welcome you to EPG Pathshala. This is Professor G. Srinivas Reddy, retired Professor of Public Administration, Kakti University, Telangana State. Today we have a presentation on Chris Argyris. Chris Argyris is a noted administrative thinker as well as a management thinker. His ideas are very basic, very important to understand organizational behavior and human interactions in the workplace. The presentation proceeds on the following lines. First, I shall give a brief bio sketch of Chris Argyris. Then, I'll mention about his major works, academic contributions. Thirdly, I'll spell out his ideas on organizational behavior and human interactions at workplace. And finally, we will have a critical evaluation of his contributions. Chris Argyris is born in the year 1923 and died in the year 2013. He worked in the United States Army during the Second World War. Chris Argyris obtained a PhD degree in organizational behavior from the Cornell University, and he worked under the guidance of William E. White of the Chicago School of Sociology. He received honorary doctorates from large number of countries including Belgium, Canada, France, Sweden, United Kingdom, United States of America. And his contributions to management theory and public administration theory are stupendous. He has authored over 40 books and 350 articles, quite a few of which are based on deep research. Coming to his important works, he has published a book entitled Personality and Organization in the year 1958 and Integrating Individual and Organization in the year 1964, Organization and Innovation in the year 1965, Intervention Theory and Method in the year 1970, Action Science in the year 1985, Theory in Practice in the year 1974, and Double Loop Hearing 1974, and Organizational Learning 1 and Organizational Learning 2 in the years 1978 and 1996 respectively. Coming to the ideas of Chris Argyris, his views on organizational development are very important. In fact, Chris Argyris is one of the co-founders of the whole discipline of organizational development. He, along with Edgar Schein and Warren Bennis, has contributed to development of an entire discipline or an entire approach to organization management called organizational development. For the benefit of students, let me mention that organizational development is basically about organizational change. It's a matter of common knowledge that organizations undergo change. Like human beings, no human being can remain what he is at the time of infancy or at the time of birth. He has a number of life stages and life cycles. So also organizations undergo change. The basic problem in the organizations, whether it's business organizations or organizations serving the public cause, to manage change. If changes are not properly managed, they may prove to be disruptive. So therefore, Chris Argyris' major contribution is how to handle organizational development. He says that organizational development is interlinked with the individual development. He doesn't see a contradiction between the organization and the individual. Therefore, to help negotiate or steer changes to the beneficial effect, you have to handle both the organization and its basic subunit or the building block, the individual. He says that the principles of formal organization, such as task specialization, would stunt the individual growth. Let me dilate a little on this particular point. The principles of organization, which are propounded by the classical thinkers, have not taken into account the importance of the individual. In fact, without individual, there is no organization. So therefore, these principles he says, are very rigid. And he says that there is a basic incongruence. Incongruence is contradiction between the requirements of the formal organization and the needs of a mature personality. Let me mention, a mature personality is an individual who becomes very mature. He develops the whole lot of understanding to handle his tasks effectively and produce proper results. So there is a basic incongruence between the requirements of the formal organization and mature personality. Probably he is hinting that an informal organization is far more suited to create a mature personality, and only mature personalities will achieve results in the organization. He further says that in the organization, individuals are naturally in the process of growing from a stage of immaturity to maturity. He likens this to the growth of an infant, a human being. In infancy, he is immature, and as he grows in age, he becomes mature. So taking an analogy, in the organization also, there is this kind of a very natural tendency or a process. What the management or administration is supposed to do is that to hasten this process or to handle this process very delicately, to facilitate this process by providing a congenial environment. And for making a person from an immature state to a mature state, what needs to be done? This should be the contribution of the organization, and this perhaps is the task cut out for managers and the administrators. Now let's see what they have to do to make an immature individual into a mature individual. Firstly, they have to provide a proper environment. Environment means not only the physical conditions but also the social and cultural conditions for flourishing of the individual personality. The second important thing is developing interpersonal competence. Let me mention that interpersonal competence is the competence or ability to interact with others effectively to achieve the goals of the organization. And there are many people who have tremendous personal competence given to themselves. They will achieve wonderful results, but when their work interlocks with the work of others, there is a problem. They are not able to handle the people, they are not able to understand the people. So therefore he says that interpersonal competence makes a person mature. An immature person is something like not having the ability to have interpersonal competence. So coming back to the concept of interpersonal competence, this is in contrast with the earlier concepts of IQ, intelligence quotient. In fact, in the earlier years of organizations, or in the organizations which were under the classical mold, what was considered important in selecting an employee is somebody's rational competence or intellectual quotient, his intelligence component. This was stressed highly, but in contrast he says that what is very important for the success of the organization or to make an individual mature is emotional quotient, or he should be in a position to understand the emotions of other people and also his own emotions, and he should use his emotions in such a way that they do not hurt the emotions of others, and the emotions of self and others should be used in a productive way. And one more thing is that he faulted the classical thinkers' stress on mechanistic approach to organization and management. The mechanistic approach to organization says that organization is like a machine, like a physical machine, requires proper maintenance and certain principles of maintenance. So also to run an organization, which is basically a machine model in the view of the classical thinkers, he requires certain principles. He also disputed the value of the principles of classical thinkers in running organizations. Yet another important idea that Chris Argyris spells out to turn an immature person into a mature person is to convert the pyramidal organizations into matrix organizations. Let me just mention that a pyramidal organization is a triangular organization which is very narrow at the top or the apex, and it's very broad at the bottom. This kind of organization is one where there is unity of command and there are bosses bossing over the subordinates, and the number of bosses is always less. So in this kind of organization, there is a top-down command. The boss gives orders and the subordinate's job is to carry forward those orders and implement. Now, this type of organization, according to Chris Argyris, is not suitable for a mature personnel. To make an individual, an employee, mature and do the jobs of the organization well, there is preference of Argyris for a matrix organization. A matrix organization is an organization which comprises of very loosely knit relations, and people do not have permanent relations. So therefore, they are not in the mold of a boss and subordinate all the time. They are there for the temporary purpose, and once the purpose is served, they will all disappear or get back to their own original organizations. So there are no permanent authority links between individuals, and this is one of the important contributions of Chris Argyris. Expanding his ideas further on the process of converting an immature person into a mature person, Chris Argyris says that there are 7 different contrasts between an immature person and a mature person. And these 7 different contrasts are as follows. An immature person is passive, whereas a mature person is active. A passive person is somebody who is always looking for orders. He executes an order and then sits pretty till the boss gives another order. But a mature person is not passive, but he will be active. He will be seeking work. Secondly, the immature person behaves in a fewer ways, whereas a mature person behaves in multiplicity of ways or ever so many ways. If you just take the example of children, children will be either smiling or crying. Perhaps they do not have the full range of emotions with them. They cannot express emotions like anger, most likely, or maybe certain other modulations of the emotions as mature individuals do. But he says a mature person is one who can behave in many different ways. So therefore, his behavioral competence is much superior to an immature person. Thirdly, the immature person has shallow interests, whereas a mature person has deep interests. What shallow interest means is that the interest is very superficial. If the child is crying out for something, if you do not have the possibility of giving what she or he is crying, you can easily divert the attention of the child. But this is not the case with mature people. Their interests are deeper. They remember what they want. So this is third important contrast. Fourthly, the immature persons have short time perspective, whereas a mature person will have a long time perspective. Short time perspective is he thinks about the consequences of something immediately, but only immediate consequences. But a mature person can think of long-term consequences, the consequences that will follow, that will come out in a week, in a month, in a year, and decades to come. So this is very important to run organizations smoothly. Organizations are complex systems. Organizations have they have got to have a longer life, and therefore this time perspective is important, and that quality is there with the mature person. Next important thing is an immature person will look for a subordinate position, whereas a mature person will seek a coordinate or superordinate position. What it means is an immature person doesn't mind being dependent. He seeks dependence. Now, if you take the case of an infant or a child, they cry for the help of the mother, father, or somebody in the family, the siblings and all that. They want to be dependent on them. For everything they would ask them. Maybe their communication levels may not be that very sophisticated, but they would express themselves and they want to depend on parents or somebody. But a mature person does not want to depend on others. He would basically like to be a peer, an equal along with the other person, be it the manager or anybody. He wants to coordinate with them or superordinate with them rather than being subordinated to them. Next important thing, last, is the lack of self-awareness is the character of an infant or an immature person or an immature employee. A mature employee will have self-awareness and self-control. Self-awareness is knowing one's own limitations, knowing one's personality strengths and weaknesses, what exactly is needed for oneself. Self-control is behaving in a limited way or operating in the limits that are ordained or stipulated by the organization. So these are important contrasts, and let me once again mention that immaturity and maturity is a continuum on which people are. It's not to suggest, Argyris did not suggest that there are two sets of employees, or employees in the beginning when they join an organization are totally immature and they become mature at the end of their service. This is not to suggest that. No, there are people with these qualities, and these qualities, I think there are people in the continuum. There may be somebody who is very close to the immaturity level, somebody very close to maturity level, close to maturity level in certain aspects and close to maturity level in certain other aspects. But overall, this process is very important. And if the organization comprises of mature individuals, organizations can be very productive. Whatever be the objective for which they are established, maybe for profit maximization as in the case of business organizations, or to render services to people as in the case of public administration, both these things would become possible with the mature individuals. Next important point that he makes is that those people who treat the fellow employees, officers who treat fellow employees positively, respectfully, and handles them like handling mature individuals, will get more productivity than people who treat the fellow employees or subordinates disrespectfully, harshly, or trying to jettison and boss over them. Therefore, this is very important, and is making a pertinent suggestion that administrators have to treat their subordinates very humanely. Next important contribution he has made is the contribution to learning organizations. And learning organizations are organizations which are dependent upon the knowledge as the basis for action. Knowledgeable actions result in productive situation for the organizations. I shall come to the concept of action science little later. Before that, let me also mention that Chris Argyris was a critic of Herbert S. Simon's contributions to the decision-making theory. He says that Simon is not right in emphasizing on authority structures. Let me remind, for the benefit of the students, that he says that authority gets legitimacy on the basis of tradition, on the basis of reason, or on the basis of law, or on the basis of charisma. So this emphasis on authority, Chris Argyris does not agree to be a correct emphasis. And he also faults Simon's concept of intendedly rational man. And he says that an intendedly rational man his focus is consistent, and his work can be programmed, and his thinking can be quite organized, and an employee accords priority to goal relevant behavior. So this kind of intendedly rational man the concept is disputed by Argyris. Argyris says that there is a more salient aspect involved here. In the goal focus, there is something like the purpose itself. What is the basic purpose of the individual? I think he has not mentioned much about the basic purpose, and purpose provides the goal. So therefore, this is something, a missing link he is trying to expose in the contributions of Herbert Simon, whose contributions are very important to understand the actions. This is something relevant for action science. And he also says, Simon's concept of satisficing man would promote status quoist organizations. Let me just expand this idea a little further. Simon said that it's absolutely not possible to have 100% rational decisions. If somebody wants to have decisions which are 100% scientific, 100% correct, it's impossible. This is what he says, and he says that a decision maker should be content with satisficing decisions. There he is driving an element of compromise. He is suggesting that you compromise because of the pressure of time. You have to do something in a proper time sequence, and you cannot ever wait endlessly to make a 100% rational decision. So this is what he says. And Argyris says that it becomes a status quoist organization. Now, thinking of this kind, that don't bother about 100% rational decision, this element of compromise makes organization less rational, and therefore the organization change is a problem. And therefore he is trying to connect these ideas to his own ideas on action science and organizational development. One more important contribution of Argyris is to T group training. This is also called sensitivity training. Let me just remind that he stressed that interpersonal competence is important in organizations. Interpersonal or competence is important in administration. To develop interpersonal competence, there should be T group training or sensitivity training. Now, sensitivity training basically is a training to understand the emotions of oneself and emotions of others. And this kind of understanding is very important to improve interpersonal competence or effectiveness. Interpersonal competence means when two people are interacting or two or more people are interacting, their interactions should lead to some productivity increase, some value addition to the organization rather than dissipating the energy of the interacting members. And another important advantage of this T group training or sensitivity training, according to Chris Argyris, is that it will improve the element of self-respect in the individual. The individual, if he undergoes sensitivity training, his self-respect, respect for himself, his admiration for himself, or his esteem about himself goes up. Also, the esteem or respect for others also goes up. Normally, otherwise, sans or without this training, people may not understand properly the problems or compulsions of the colleagues. Therefore, this kind of training helps people to understand others' predicaments and problems, others' emotions and one's own emotions, and therefore it will result in self-esteem and result in greater self-esteem as well as esteem for others. His contribution to sensitivity training is perhaps an early contribution to competency mapping. These days, in management and administration, we are talking about competency mapping, competency management, and the elementary things or rudiments of competency mapping are found in the sensitivity training concept of Argyris. So therefore, he perhaps may be credited as somebody who has given early leads to a very advanced concept which is catching up in the management today. Another thing I just touched upon and did not complete is his concept of action science or his concept of action theory. What he says is that knowledge is important for running management and administration, but what is more important is actionable knowledge. The knowledge that's mere conceptual, the knowledge that only enables you to understand things is not by itself adequate. What's more needed is a knowledge about actions or actionable knowledge or knowledge that is pragmatic, knowledge that can be used for administrative actions. And actionable knowledge is something whose important component is the meaning and intent behind that kind of knowledge. Well, we try to acquire some knowledge, but why do you acquire that knowledge? What exactly is your intention behind acquiring a particular knowledge is also important. It has tremendous implications for management and administration. He also has made a deep study of the conditions under which actionable knowledge prospers. Closely related to his theory of action or action theory is his concept of knowledge management. He says knowledge management is basically an art, and we can manage people by managing the knowledge they have. Now, these are two different ways of managing people. Managing people per se is one way, but managing the knowledge they have is perhaps a more surer, very indirect, less obtrusive way of controlling somebody. So this is what he says, and for this, to control the knowledge of the person whose actions you want to control, you should have validation of knowledge. The knowledge that is there should be validated. It should be proved. It should be something which is based on some proper premises. It's based on proper evidence. It's based on logic and all. And one more aspect in which you can control the behavior of people, or to control the actions of the people without sounding or appearing as if you are directly interfering with the person's actions, is provide informed choices to people. Now, when people are making choices, you just provide them insights as to how this choice would affect or affect the organization, the good and bad about it. So by providing informed choices to the individuals in the organization, you are able to control them, you are able to steer them towards the goals of the organization. The last important contribution made by Chris Argyris is his concept of Model 1 and Model 2. The Model 1 that Argyris is talking about is something that resembles the classical model of organization. In the classical model of organization, there is a top-down command, centralization of authority, and this kind of model of organization is not good because it results in several dysfunctionalities. Let me just expand the idea of dysfunctionalities. Functionalities are functions that contribute to some goal. Dysfunctionalities are those that negate the function. So the dysfunctionalities of Model 1 organization is defensiveness. This is one important dysfunctionality. Defensiveness is whatever you do. Sometimes we do right things, sometimes we do wrong things. But even you do wrong things, you try to defend. This is what is defensiveness or rationalization. You are trying to build some reason into what you have done. You are wrongly justifying something you have done. So this is a dysfunctional behavior. I think this kind of behavior does not contribute to a mature organization. The next important thing is self-fulfilling instinct. Self-fulfilling means self-serving. Organization becomes self-serving. It does not so much bother about the organization. And he tries to self-profile also. Self-profile is a kind of action which he does on his own without any regard for what is the compulsion of the organization. Now, these are the kind of features or the qualities of an individual in Model 1. Instead, Chris Argyris suggests or recommends Model 2. Model 2 kind of organization is one which utilizes valid information, information that is validated, information that is doubly checked, and it values free and informed choices. Unfettered choices. Choices that administrators make should not be under compulsions. And then it also values personal responsibility. and spontaneous participation. Spontaneous participation is participation that is forthcoming on one's own. Participation is not due to somebody's compulsion, or the boss is saying, come on, jump into action, then you are doing. This is not it. So what really spontaneous participation is that on your own you feel like participating and you involve headlong into the actions. And next important thing is reduction of inconsistencies. I think in individual human behavior, sometimes there are contradictions. In most of us, we have this faculty or tendency. Sometimes we say something and next time we say the total contrast of it. So this is what is known as contradiction, and contradictions have to be eliminated. I think type or model 2 organization helps in achieving all these positive goals. Chris Argyris is a very fascinating management and administrative thinker. He has followed a very sophisticated methodology. He has made voluminous contributions to administration and management, and he has been a co-founder of the discipline of organizational development, and he is also the founder of a very important technique of training, namely T group training. And his another important contribution is his theory of action science or action theory. Of course, these are all very major contributions of Argyris, and therefore he has an important place. But coming to one or two shortcomings of his otherwise important contributions is that some of the critics point out that there is lack of empirical support to his views. Let me just expand the idea of empirical support. Empirical support means practical support in real life. Do you really find this to be true in organizations? So that kind of support is not adduced for his theories. And next important thing is the impact of T group training. T group training is sensitivity training, training about emotions and feelings. Some critics point out that T group training effect is short run. Now, the effect of this T group training is not one that lingers for a very long time and it becomes a permanent aspect of human personality. So these are two major limitations of his contribution, as critics would point out. Overall, we should say that Chris Argyris is a very fascinating and a very prolific contributor to the management science and administrative science, and his contribution is basically in the area of organizational behavior, and he was perhaps one of the early thinkers to give leads to various theories and various practices that are emerging both in the realms of public administration and business management. Thank you.